वेलकम बैक नाज़रीन। नाज़रीन, हम एडमिरल माइक मुल्लन से बात कर रहे थे और वो कह रहे थे कि जो ब्रिटिश का और इनका अपना जो एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है कि आगे किस तरह जाए अफगानिस्तान में, वो एक कॉमन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है, एक कॉमन अप्रोच है। हम उनसे कह रहे हैं कि हमें लगता है कि कुछ फ़र्क है। कमिंग बैक टू द अप्रोच दैट द ब्रिटिश हैव, आई मीन व्हाट आई एम सेइंग हियर इज समथिंग दैट इज अगेन वाइडली रिपोर्टेड and that there is a difference in the approach. But however, let me ask you, the last thing that people in the military want is continued war. So they always look at possibilities of, on the one hand, okay, fighting the war, but on the other hand, the political aspect as well. And you've talked about that your administration will lead the vision, the diplomacy, and you'll follow. Given the situation on the ground, who do you think the dialogue should be with? After all, there is an adversary there who happen to be the Afghans themselves, Afghan nationals who are fighting at this point, and that your troops have not been able to, and NATO troops have not been able to defeat them. Who would you talk to? And they have a leadership which is Mullah Omar, and despite attempts in the past to engage the Taliban, minus Mullah Omar, that effort hasn't worked, barring some marginal successes.
Well,
who would you suggest?
I would argue the effort hasn't worked because we haven't really had. Well, I mean, we haven't had the resources to reverse the momentum and to put the Taliban in a much weaker position. And they're in a strong position right now, and I think that's got to change. And it is changing in some places. It's not for me or, quite frankly, the United States to decide who gets to talk. It's really, this is something that is Afghan-led. The United States is very supportive of that. I just don't, from my perspective, I don't see it happening in the immediate future. I think there are other steps that need to be taken before we get there, and I think that we will get there. And there is a part of this that includes all of what you've described in terms of engaging all the parties who were involved in this. I just don't think we're close yet.
You don't think you're close yet in terms of having to start the dialogue?
I don't think we're close yet in terms of the kind of dialogue that needs to take place to reconcile this. I think President Karzai and his leadership gets to decide who they talk to at any particular time.
But that decision President Karzai has taken, in some cases, your former commander, ISAF commander, General McChrystal, sat in meetings which took place between General Kayani and President Karzai, where there was discussion about the Haqqani group and how to move forward on a political process. So there was American presence during these dialogues. So you surely know that the process has already started.
Well, as in all meetings, and I won't discuss details that occurred.
No, I'm not discussing details, but I'm saying a process started.
Quite frankly, suffice it to say, I think we all recognize, from General McChrystal to General Petraeus, myself, and the American political leadership, that dialogue has to take place to eventually reconcile.
Dialogue with whom, Admiral?
I think that's to be determined, and specifically, again, the Afghan leadership is the one that and President Karzai specifically, that leads this, and there has not been any kind of determinate that it should be or shouldn't be anybody in specific. I think those who have equities and those who have stakes are those who eventually get included, without being specific about exactly who that might be.
Yeah, but again, I mean, I don't want to labor the point. I think President Karzai has made the point quite clearly. Let me come back to the home front. I mean, on the home front, despite what President Obama said in his speech of December 1st, 2009, where he said, we surely can unite around this one objective of, managing and winning in Afghanistan. Yet all recent polls indicate about 50% of the people at home, in your country, are now against U.S. involvement in the war in Afghanistan.
I'm very supportive of the strategy the President has laid out. We've been given a mission specifically to execute that strategy, and that is what we're doing. And we'll continue to do that as directed by our President. And that's really where we are. And that's where we'll always be. That's the current mission. That's what the President has directed. And
I was talking about really the U.S. public opinion.
Sure.
50% of it is against the war. The people in Afghanistan are now standing up. I mean, it's not, I'm submitting to you, it's not about resources. It's about also national will emerging within Afghanistan in terms of what these foreign troops are able to achieve, not achieve. So surely there's more to it than just about resources.
Well, I don't carry out my missions based on public opinion. I carry out my missions based on the direction of the President of the United States, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, let's talk about directions. Let's talk about the Haqqani network on the ground. The Haqqani network on the ground, Pakistan's position on that and US's position are clearly different. Pakistan doesn't see Haqqani network as a primary adversary. They've got other, the Pakistani army has other problems to deal with on the military front. And US seems to be pressurizing Pakistan on the Haqqani network, taking on the Haqqani network. How realistic is that expectation that Pakistan would go for the Haqqani network?
You mentioned this is my 19th trip to Pakistan. I've engaged with the Pakistan, particularly the military leadership, a lot over the last better part of 3 years. And I've admired the change and transformation in Pakistani military operations, the focus on the threat that has grown increasing, the terrorist threat has grown increasingly inside Pakistan, the rotational challenges that General Kiani has with his forces, and I've also been very clear in my engagement about the priority and concern that we have for all the terrorist threats, including the Haqqani network. We recognize the seriousness of that. This network is directly supporting the outcomes in Afghanistan, which are killing coalition soldiers.
President Karzai is engaging with that network indirectly.
Well, that's again,
it's a fact.
To get to your question specifically, with respect to Pakistan and the Haqqani network, it's been something that I've routinely raised. Pakistan has sacrificed greatly. There has been no country in the world that has either captured or killed more terrorists, and it is representative of the totality of the terrorist threat that is in this part of the world.
Yeah, but the Haqqani network has stepped in at times to negotiate and help on the TTP front, although I mean they're not friends at the end of the day, but in terms of prioritization of threat, it's not a primary threat for Pakistan, and it seems also not for President Karzai, because they've engaged in dialogue. So US and Pakistan and US and President Karzai, Kabul seem to diverge on this issue.
One of the biggest concerns I've had over the last couple of years has been the synergy between the various terrorist organizations, increasingly so. Haqqani is tied to Al-Qaeda. I see LET expanded from just what used to be...
You equated it to Al-Qaeda?
Well, an East Coast, an Eastern threat to a regional and actually an emerging global threat from an aspirational standpoint. And I think there's great danger internally to Pakistan, to all of us in the region, with the increased activity between and among terrorist organizations that we all need to focus on. And in discussions I've had, without going into detail, with General Kiani, I think we're in agreement on that.
Ultimately, Pakistan will have to, because it's, for us, it's on a day-to-day basis, so I guess Pakistan will have to prioritize the threat that it faces, while your concerns obviously are on a broader scale. Pakistan will perhaps focus on what concerns it.
Well, I think Pakistan has focused on that, and again, Pakistan has done a great deal that many people particularly outside Pakistan, would have thought not possible over the last 2 years. And I have great respect for that. That said, there's still a tremendous amount of work that I think we all need to do to address this threat.
Thank you very much for this time, and it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. नाज़रीन, ये गुफ्तगू आपने हमारी सुनी यूएस एडमिरल माइक मलन के साथ. इसके बाद हम स्टूडियो में चलेंगे और देखेंगे, इस पर डिस्कस करेंगे कि जो इन्होंने यहाँ कहा उसकी पॉलिसी इम्प्लीकेशन क्या होगी आने वाले दिनों में.